Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast. Each week we are powered by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. In addition to their tree work, they can also haul rock and sand. They can do driveway work and can now even do horizontal grinding of large wood debris piles. Give our friend Keith Woldridge a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Tim Estes. I'll be your host, and I'm at our studios here in Americus, Georgia. I'm joined by Scott Westbrook, who is in our satellite center over in Butler, Georgia. And Scott, if people are watching tonight, we'd like them to interact with us, right, on the live chat, or they can chime in on Facebook, but that's always a lot of fun.
Exactly. Yeah, we love to hear the comments and questions.
Scott, I know you had some interaction with one of our frequent viewers, Mr. Kerry Claiborne, this past week. Kerry is the announcer up at Buford and for the Gwinnett Stripers, and I know you wanted to say hello to him.
I did. I also I probably should have sent him a message through Facebook, but he and I were involved on a podcast. We were watching and commenting like we like our viewers to do from time to time. And one of the new high schools in the Atlanta area, Secklinger, I think is how you pronounce it. Nobody knew where it was, and Kerry said it's got a Buford address, but it's a Gwinnett County school, so it doesn't fall under the Buford High School, the Buford City School or their umbrella. And I replied back to Kerry. I said, "Oh, so this is going to be Buford's farm team." Is what, you know. And Kerry, I even put a little winky smiley face with it. I don't think Kerry liked it, so I was going to reach out to him and say, "Kerry, man, I was just cutting a fool with you." I said, "I got a unique connection with Buford that I'll share with him, and he and I are together sometime." But yeah, I couldn't resist that. I'm sure that, but Kerry, I didn't want him to be ill at me for poking at Buford a little bit. It's all out of jealousy, I can promise you, 100%.
Absolutely. And knowing Kerry like I do, I hope he took that in jest. Mm-hmm. Scott, it's week 2 of the high school football playoffs here in Georgia. And we still have 2 local teams that are in the running for a state championship. Southland Academy and Sly County will both be playing big games this week. Going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
They are. One's on the road and one will be at home. One's got is favored and one's going in as an underdog. So we've got 2 sides of the coin to address on each game this week.
Scott, before we get into high school playoffs, I do want to mention we have 3 local youth rec teams that are in the district championship tonight. Wow. The Sumter County Parks and Recreation All-Star teams in the 8 and under, 10 and under, and 12 and under division have all won their first 2 playoff games and will be in the district finals tonight. So we want to wish them the best of luck. If they can win those games, they'll advance to what's called the South Georgia Regionals, which is the top 4 teams in the southern part of the state. And then if they can win that, they'll face the North Georgia Regional winner for the state championship. So good luck to those guys. Also, Scott, I was looking this week on the Georgia High School Daily. You and I frequent that site a lot. They have good information. And 5 of the top 10 schools in various classifications were upset in the first round of the playoffs, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. You had Collins Hill, who was 4-6, defeated North Cobb, who was 7-3, and they beat them convincingly, 45-14.
I had my eye on that game because the winner of that game, I think, plays Milton, and North Cobb had beat Milton earlier in the year. So I was kind of surprised to see, but Collins Hill, and of course that's when they had Travis Hunter, but they're just a couple of years removed from a state championship themselves. So they know how to win there, and they know how to win in big games. So a lot of these players who played this past Friday night will play tomorrow night were on that state championship team. So
Right.
big game is not, it doesn't rattle their cage too much. So I was watching that game, and it was a huge surprise for a lot of people in that bracket.
And that's in the 7A classification. Also in 7A, you had Camden County, who beat number 7 ranked Newton County 29-15.
Yeah, Newton County has kind of always been there, but not like Camden County. Camden County, that coach has been down there forever, and he's won a couple of state championships and is always in the hunt. So that may have been an upset on paper, but I don't think statewide it was a big surprise, because Camden County is always well coached.
Yeah, two that I don't know much about, also in 7A, Cass at 5-5. They were a 4 seed. They beat number 1 seed in their bracket and overall number 6 ranked Kell High School and beat them 28-14.
I was very surprised at that, and I tell you why. Traveling with these camps with Carson, I've met a lot of the young men on these teams, and Sokovie White is one of them. So he committed to Georgia as a sophomore. He plays for Cass. Cass has got a couple of other P5 and D1 commits. They have historically been the doormat in Northwest Georgia. They're, with Cartersville and Calhoun and all getting what they want, and everybody else fighting over the crumbs. But Cass has got a new coach, and his name escapes me, but he's a University of Georgia alum, and he's tied in real close with the university. So he's made a lot of kids in that general area want to play for him, and he's done well with the talent that he's gotten. Kell picked up some kids. They picked up, I know, one receiver, D1 receiver, from Johns Creek that has been to some camps with us. A guy, I think his name's Kyle Varka, Varka, and so Carson and I were both kind of had our eye on that, because we knew so many kids that played for both those teams, and I can speak for myself. I was genuinely surprised in that one.
And in Class 5A, you had Dalton, the Catamounts of Dalton High School, upset Greater Atlanta Christian 39-17. Greater Atlanta Christian, probably the premier money school in the state of Georgia, always has good football, but Dalton got the best of them.
They did, and Dalton again has a couple of kids that we've seen at some of these camps. They've got a big tight end who's gotten some Ivy League looks and offers at some really good schools, and the Greater Atlanta Christian. I mean, think about all the players that, when we see those in the Dome, and a lot of former Atlanta Falcon players play for Greater Atlanta Christian. So you're right. They don't hurt for talent each year. But I can remember talking to one of the parents for Dalton. They actually. We ran into them at the Yale football camp, and they had Dalton shirt. They both had Dalton shirts on. So I approached them because it was unusual to see somebody from Georgia up there. And both the parents were pretty confident that this team was going to make some noise in the playoffs.
And then probably the biggest upset in all classifications, number 1 ranked Sandy Creek lost to Monroe Area, who came in 6-4, and they upset Sandy Creek by a score of 24-21.
That surprised that had rippling effects all through the state. I did not even pay attention to that game, because I had already wrote Sandy Creek in several brackets ahead, and so if we were doing a March Madness bracket, that would have been a bracket buster for me.
Each week, our program is brought to you in part by One Digital Solutions. They are a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial, and HR platforms provide you with a personalized, tech-enabled solution for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees by fusing together customized solutions that address things like employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's really everything all in one. It's One Digital. You can contact our friend Will Peterson. His number is 229-347-6289. Again, One Digital at 229-347-6289. They are proud to be a sponsor here on the Integrity Sports Podcast. Let's get to our first local team, Scott, and that's Southland Academy. They had a big playoff win last week here at home. They defeated Lakeview Academy out of the Gainesville, Georgia area, 35-14. That now runs Southland's record up to 5-6, but by all means, a stepping stone for Southland Academy.
In my mind, Southland is 1-0 in this new season, and so we can They've been able to take advantage of the opportunities they've got in the playoffs, and were able to get this first victory and catapult them to the second round.
Last week, Lakeside tried some trickeration when they first started the game. They tried the opening kickoff was an onside kick, and it didn't work. Southland's hands team recovered it, and Bank Simmons immediately went to work. He hit Trey Sellers on a long crossing route and then called his own number from the 2-yard line. He scored, and then Cooper Boren, who's really been good. We followed him this season. He's gotten a lot better kicking the extra points, but he booted the PAT, and Southland quickly led it 7-0. Stayed that way all the way till very near the end of the first half. And at the end of the first half, Lakeside scored to tie it at 7. So you went into the halftime break 7-7. Coach Rod Murray and his staff, I thought, made some great adjustments at the halftime break, especially along the offensive and defensive lines. Ethan Peck recovered a fumble, and shortly after that, Bank Simmons would again find the end zone. And Southland, very early in the third quarter, had a 14-7 lead. On the next offensive drive, this was one I really liked, Scott. They threw kind of a swing pass out to Big Will Godwin, who plays a lot of defensive end. They'll bring him in certain run situations to block at the tight end. This time they gave him the football, and he stumbled and bumbled and rumbled all the way down to very near the goal line, at least within the 10-yard line. And from there, they would take it in for another touchdown and lead it 21-7. Cooper Boren, who serves as the PAT kicker, also plays a little bit of linebacker, and he and Ethan Peck really wreaked havoc from those linebacker spots all night. They would cause another fumble in the fourth quarter, and this time McMichael would scamper 42 yards on a screen pass and give the Raiders a commanding 28-7 lead. Later in the fourth quarter, freshman Turner Simmons would cause a fumble, and that would lead to a scoop and score, and the Raiders were up 35-0. That was Fisher Britt that picked up the scoop and score. Southland would give up a late touchdown, but would convincingly go on to win this 35-14. So Southland struggled a little bit, Scott, during the regular season. They played some really good teams. Not many times did they get blown out. Most of the time they were in the game. But you kept saying, guys, beat the drum, win your last two, get in the playoffs, and start over. And they started strong.
They did, and hopefully this momentum will carry them into this next week's game. They went up there, they seized the opportunity, they took command of the game early, which is what you have to do. And when you're playing a team that you should beat, you kind of got to let them know that early on. Otherwise, you start giving them confidence, and they start getting fired up, and they start believing they can win. And it's hard to throw water on them at that point. So it's best to throw water on them right out of the gates. And by doing that onside kick and recovering and scoring immediately, that right there sends them back to the sidelines, giving their coaches a side eye, like maybe this shouldn't have been a route we took here.
Yeah. Hey, their opponent this week is a familiar foe, Coach Brad Wells and the Valwood Valiants. They are 9-1. Their only loss on the season came at the hands of North Florida Christian, who's a national power. But they're always really good, and Valwood defeated the Raiders 49-0 in the regular season. So let's make no bones about this. Valwood is a very good football team. DeMar Riley leads their rushing attack. He averages 100 yards per game. He also has 15 touchdowns on the season. Marquise Fennell averages 79 yards per game, and he leads Valwood in total touchdowns with 17 on the season. And that's just from the running back spot. Then you have to worry about quarterback Tate Snellgrove. He's a good one. He's thrown for 12 touchdowns and rushed for 8 more. So a lot of weapons on this Valwood team. Defensively, they've got one guy on each level that must be contained. And I know Coach Murray and his staff have gone over that this week. On the defensive line, they've got a guy named Jackson Johnson. He's a commanding presence, big guy up front. Their middle linebacker, David Griffin, comes in averaging 6.5 tackles per game. And then in the secondary, Landon Ryan, who leads the team in tackles, he comes up and gets a lot of tackles for loss from his cornerback position. but he's averaging 7 tackles per game. So, Scott, going to be a tough one for the Raiders.
It's no doubt with Valwood already beating them 49-0, that they're going to come in fairly confident. They're familiar with Southland. Southland's familiar with them. But as you and I both know, regardless of the spread in the first game, it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. It's very hard because you're familiar with each other and you've thrown all your cards on the table. I think Southland can go in this game relaxed. They have nothing to lose at this point. Valwood, however, probably, they're going to want to do exactly what Southland did to Lakeview, is come out early and get an early lead. And if they don't do that, then the pressure is on them a little more, a little more than it is on Southland, obviously, because they're expected to win. So I'll be interested to see what the score is after the first quarter. And if it's close, then sometimes the momentum, sometimes the attitude, sometimes the overall atmosphere of the game can change. And if you go into halftime and there's only one score behind, or there's only one score separates them, whether Southland be one score up, then we're looking at a ball game, and it's something that Valwood didn't sign up for.
And Scott, I am going to be honored to speak to Southland Academy's football team tomorrow. They have a pregame breakfast tomorrow morning, and one of the things we're going to talk about is the greatest upset in college football history that happened in 2007 when App State went to the Big House and beat Michigan. There is always a chance when you're on the field. I feel like Valwood's going to come in with their chest poked out. They probably haven't prepared as hard as they normally would, knowing that they've won 49-0 in a previous meeting. But there's a reason you play the game, and Southland's definitely got a chance.
And what you might want to relay to them, and I'm sure you've already thought about this, college football was significantly different in 2007 than it is in 2023. That was a true David and Goliath situation. There was no transfer portal. There was no, if it doesn't work out for you, well, you can go to this team. Or if you sit there and you go to App State and you really show out, then you might could go to Michigan next year. That did not exist in 2007. Right. Michigan and Ohio State and some of the big SEC powers and the USCs, they kind of got what they want, and everybody else fought over the crumbs. And by the time it trickled down, because App State at that time, if I remember correctly, had just come out of what we called D1AA or something like that, which is now called FCS.
Right.
They weren't even considered barely a bowl team then, FBS team. I think we called back then was D1 or D1A or something. But there was a lot of differences in 2007 than there are in 2023. And these kids that you're going to be talking to, most of them weren't even born in 2007, or if they were 1 year old. So they can't imagine what it was like then. I mean, so that's I think it's important to put that in perspective, that it was not the parity was not there then like it is now.
And as you look at keys for Southland, Scott, I think they're going to need to control the football, in essence, controlling the clock. They can't have any turnovers. That's going to be a big key. Control the football. Don't turn it over. Grind out yardage on offense. And they're going to have to play assignment football on defense. Valwood wants to go fast. Know your assignments. Get your job done. Keep it close into the fourth quarter, and anything can happen.
Mm-hmm. And eat up clock. Keep their offense off the field, and eat up clock and keep it to where it's within one score, one way or the other.
All South Appraisals is your trusted partner in appraising rural properties in our area. They can handle all types of properties, whether it's agricultural, commercial, or residential. From vast farmlands to that charming country home that defines the heart and soul of our communities, All South Appraisal has a commitment to accuracy and a dedication to the unique nuances of rural properties, and that's what sets them apart. They blend modern technology with old-fashioned attention to detail to provide you with an appraisal you can trust. Whether you're a lender, an attorney, an accountant, a real estate agent, or broker, or if you're the property owner, give All South Appraisals a call, 478-837-3818. Again, if you need an appraisal, call All South Appraisals at 478-837-3818. All South Appraisals is proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And Scott, before we get to Sly County, I thought we'd do something this week and look at the 3 playoff brackets of the teams that are in our focus group. That would be GHSA Class 2A, which is where Sumter County played, the GHSA Class A Division 2 bracket, which is Sly County's bracket, and then the GIAA Class 3A bracket. And I want to talk about some of the teams that may be favored to get into the Final Four or the finals, and maybe some surprises or upsets that could happen. And I want to start with Class 2A, where Sumter County plays. Unfortunately, Sumter County not in the playoffs. We expect them to get there in the near future. But the Thompson Bulldogs, they're ranked number 1 in Class 2A, and this week take on a very good Toombs County team. Toombs County is currently ranked number 4. They're 9-1. And Scott, much like the region that Sly County plays in 2A, in this region where Toombs County is, you have the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4 ranked team in the state, all coming out of that region.
Well, that was a very unique situation in that region where they had a 3-way tie, and they had to. I think the way they handled it is like they drew a name out of the hat and then did a coin toss or something. I don't know, jumped over a broom, or I'm not exactly sure all the little scenarios they had to do. But there was only each one of those teams that played each other only lost by 3 points.
Right.
And like Appling County, we met some of their players at some of the camps this year, and I got a connection to Toombs County, and the guy that's the chaplain and I think he's the PA announcer also is some of Michelle's kinfolks. So I guess my kinfolks by marriage. And so, I've followed those teams closely this year. And of course, Pierce County, Stetson Bennett's old stomping grounds. I mean, they won the state championship. I forgot, maybe 2 years ago or something. And so there's really not a whole lot that separates those 3. And it can be a situation where 3 of the Final 4 teams come out of that one region. It would not surprise, I think, anybody in the state who's been following that.
Well, and I'm going to call that, Scott. I'm going to say that the Final 4 in Class 2A are going to be Callaway, and then Pierce, Toombs, and Appling. And what that means is I'm calling for Toombs to upset number 1 ranked Thompson this week.
See, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some of my kinfolks by marriage mad, and that I'm going to have to go with Thompson. Because I think Thompson won the state championship last year. They got some blue chip recruits there. They have just have a tremendous, rich football history there, which Toombs is kind of, let's be honest, they're kind of new to the dance right now. And so I'm going to go with Thompson on that one, just for the aforementioned reasons I just cited.
All right, in GHSA Class A Division 2, Sly County and Lincoln County. That's going to be a huge matchup this week. Lincoln County has a lot of history, and a lot of good football has been played over there. You've also got Bowden and Greene County, which is going to be a big matchup, going to be a second-round matchup as well. Macon County and Aquinas, I think, is going to be another big game in Class A Division 2. So what do you think about those teams?
This is kind of funny to me because the Lincoln County game, I'm going to come out and say it just feels like a trap game to me. It just feels like a game that they're going to come in, and if we don't punch them in the mouth and get on them early, we could have some problems with them because they you can say they have a rich history, but they had their rich history the same time Macon County was having theirs back in the 80s and 90s, and those people are going to be sitting in the stands and remember those days. But Lincoln County's big up front. They have got a really good running game. What is so bizarre to me is that, and I hope this to be true, is that Sly's picked as a 26-point favorite in that game. So, I hope that that's how it plays out, but I just want our boys to take it serious and realize that they probably got a pretty tough second round draw here and got to treat this game just like it's like they're playing Manchester or Macon County or Early County in the regular season. Now, Bowden and Greene County, I feel like, because I watched the Bowden game the other night against Taylor County. Taylor County had some key injuries. They were playing up in Bowden. Bowden was firing on all cylinders. So maybe my viewpoint of this game is a little jaded by that. But the Maxwell ratings have this as only a 2-point game, and
I think they're right.
See, I think Bowden's going to boat race them. I just
you really?
I just think Bowden's going to. I mean, if they play like they did last Friday night against Taylor County, and if Greene County sits there and starts putting their hands on their hips and their heads down, looking at the ground, then they're going to boat race them. Now, I've heard people on a lot of the forums and the Facebook pages, a lot of the Greene County folks beating their chest on their defensive secondary and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's fine and dandy. That I watched that quarterback from Bowden the other night throw a 60-yard pass with a flick of a wrist and put it right in the gizzard of his receiver as he waltzed in the end zone. So we're going to see what kind of secondary Greene County has in that game.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to GIAA Class AAA, where Southland plays. Scott, to me, this looks like a 2-horse race. John Millage Academy has been the consensus number 1 all year long. They're coached by former Georgia Bulldog J.T. Wall. He's got them rolling in Milledgeville. And then you got Valwood, that's a close second. You got Brookwood and Pinewood playing. I think both of those teams are pretenders in the big picture. And then you've got Frederica and Terrell Academy playing this week. Terrell will make that beach trip over there. That's the number 3 and number 6 seeds. And I think Terrell, being the number 6 seed, I think they're going to pull off the upset.
Well, and who does Terrell play this week? Remind me, Frederica?
Frederica.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. When John Millage has just had the time of their life the past few seasons and been almost impossible to beat. I look at that, and I think that they are it's theirs to lose. But just like Buford last year, everybody had penciled Buford in as the state championship in their classification last year, and they lost, I think, in the second round against Walton. So it can happen, and it can happen. John Millage is no stronger than Buford was in their classification last year. So I think that it's going to take a team that's got a unique game plan. It's going to catch lightning in the bottle one night and beat John Millage, or it is going to be a 2-horse race between them and Valwood.
Today's show is also brought to you by our friend Marty McDonald at Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. They're located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. Go by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their staff and let them discuss your insurance needs. They do a discount double check to make sure you're receiving all of the savings that are available to you. You can reach Marty on Facebook or by calling him at 928-3686. Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance supports all of our local schools, and like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Sly County had a bye week last week, Scott. They are 10-0 for the first time in school history, have been ranked number 1 pretty much the entire season, and this week going to take on a very, very good Lincoln County Red Devil team. Coach Larry Campbell kind of built that program, like you said, back in the 80s and 90s. One of his alums is now the head coach there. And Lincoln County comes into the contest at 7-4. But here's what I want all the Sly County folks to realize. They come in at 7-4, but look at who they lost to. They lost to, let's see, Bryan County was their first loss. They're from Class A Division I, and they're 10-1 right now. They lost to Commerce, who's also a Class A Division I team. They're ranked number 3. They're 10-1. They lost to Aquinas, who's 9-2, and lost to Greene County, who's 10-1. So 3 of the teams that they lost to are 10-1. The other is 9-2. They haven't lost to some chumps.
No. They've been challenged. They've won the games they're supposed to win, and they lost the games they lost are respectable. So this is not going to be a cakewalk. This is not your typical second round game. I've heard a lot of people wonder about this bye week. How is it going to affect? So I think a bye week in baseball is the worst thing you can get. But I think a bye week in football is pretty doggone good, just simply because you avoid an injury. It gives you an extra week to prepare. I think our coaches pretty much knew we were going to play Lincoln County when we saw the brackets drawn up. We didn't waste a lot of time on whoever they played last week. I forget. But Wilkinson County, I don't think anybody really thought that they were going to upset Lincoln County. But I think that the bye week, remember when we had the power rankings, teams 1 through 8 every year got a bye. So, and
That's right.
it didn't affect them. So I don't think this should affect us. What I think will affect us is two things. If our kids come out complacent, apathetic, and if our fans don't show up and they come out complacent and apathetic. That's the two things that can hurt us. When you play a team like Lincoln County, you got to do just like we did when we played Manchester. Before Manchester's offense stepped on the field, they were down 14-0.
Right.
And that's what Lincoln County's got to experience. They got to experience something similar to that, to where they're all of a sudden, what hornet's nest did we just knock off the branch here? They've got to realize that. And let's be honest. I bet a lot of people in Lincoln County never heard of Sly County until this week, because it's just two schools that I don't think have played each other that frequently. They don't. There's a whole lot of reason for us to travel to Lincoln County. There ain't a whole lot of reason for them to travel down here. So, but I feel like it's going to be the game you're going to want to go to. And obviously, I feel like Sly County is going to win, but we cannot take this opponent lightly.
Lincoln County is going to be led by their quarterback, and I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Mekhi. I'm going to say Mekhi. Mekhi Wade is their quarterback. He's a really mobile quarterback. He has a lot of carries for him. He's got 12 touchdowns on the season. Samaj Jenkins, Scott, and this is kind of strange. As I was doing their roster yesterday, and I saw that word Samaj, my middle name is James, and that just rung a bell. And I looked, and Samaj is James spelled backwards. Just wanted to throw that out there to you. But Samaj Jenkins gets the bulk of their carries. He's got 12 touchdowns on the season, and they do run it much more than they throw it. They come in on the ground with 1,946 rushing yards. They've thrown it for 976. They average 26.2 points per game. Defensively, they're led by their middle linebacker, Christian Kreit. And here's another one of these odd things, Scott, as I put their roster together. They have 5 players on their team whose first name is Christian. Their secondary is suspect on defense, which may play into the hands of the Cats because we do throw it pretty well. And we have several top quality receivers. And I've also noticed that they have a lot of good athletes, Scott, that play both ways, about 6 that never come off the field. And I think that could play a big role when you're talking about fourth quarter.
Exactly. We hope that by the fourth quarter rolls around that we're putting in some of our subs and getting them some playoff opportunities and time. But if not, we could with our receiving core, we could wear them down pretty easily if some of their DBs are not coming off the field.
Here's something to note. A lot of folks hear about Sly County, but you never get to see their stats. Now that they've completed the regular season, they finished with 2,444 yards passing, 1,688 yards rushing. They average 44 points a game on offense, only allow 13.5 points a game. However, that's deceiving because when you look at the starting defense, they have only allowed 9 touchdowns all season. 6 of those were against Bleckley County in game 2 of the season. And so if you take that game out and look at the other 9 games against Class A Division II opponents, Sly's defense has only allowed 3 touchdowns all year in those 9 games.
And Sly did not have a cakewalk season either. They played some pretty stiff competition in region and out of region. And when you got Macon and Manchester in your region, and they could very easily be 2 Final Four teams, and you played non-region against the likes of Early County and Bleckley, it wasn't like we scheduled a bunch of cream puffs this season.
That's right. And when you look at Sly County, Scott, you've already mentioned they need to get off to a fast start. I'm right there with you. I think they need to build a 14-point or 21-point lead early. How do you do that? You use all the weapons that are available to you. And I feel like Darren Alford and his staff have really done a good job of that this year. When you're talking about scoring weapons, everybody thinks of a Zayden Walker at a running back spot or a Jalewis Solomon at receiver. And certainly both of those guys are as good as Build. But you also have a quarterback that's had a tremendous season throwing and running. you got a Carson Westbrook and a Sam Forehand and Kendall Sims, and as of late, a Jordan Hudson. I mean, you got a lot of weapons on offense, and I think they need to early spread it out, let all these guys get a few touches, and let those coaches over on the sideline of Lincoln County go, who do we pay attention to?
And you got, like you said, KB Aldridge, another phenomenal ball player, has had just a
Yeah.
great season. This is what a lot of people, when I say a lot of people, a lot of the cursory football fans don't understand. When you have a Coach Jake Smith is calling me, I'm gonna tell him that I'm gonna have to call him back. I'm gonna tell him he's got a shout out he'll have to watch tonight. But anyway,
That's right.
What they don't realize is when you have a Jalewis Solomon, I guarantee you those kids on Lincoln County have been nailed in their head. I don't care who beats you. Do not let Solomon beat you. Do not let Walker. I don't care who beats you. And I guarantee you they've been told that time and time again. So when Jay goes back to pass, all he's got to do is look toward Jalewis's way. And not only the cornerback that's covering him, the safety's going to drift over there. The linebacker's going to – the whole team is sitting there watching him do it. And all the next thing you know, he's thrown it to Kendall Sims, and Kendall Sims has got his guy beat by 2 yards or 3 yards. And so that's – people sit there and think, well, Jalewis, didn't have as many yards as I thought he would have had, or this and that and that. They don't realize what a weapon just having him on the field is, and what opens it up for KB to sit there and if we sit there and if we look towards Jalewis's way and throw a little pass out to KB and as a check guy and KB breaks off 15 yards or something like that coming out of the backfield, just so many things like that a normal just kind of cursory fan watching doesn't see, but I guarantee you that has been told to those players time and time again. And if you watch tomorrow night and you watch Lincoln County and you watch that safety and you watch when Jay goes back, and if he looks to Jalewis and passes it to somebody else, there's 2 or 3 people standing on Jalewis and there's man coverage on everybody else. So that's the thing. That's what a Jalewis Solomon, if he doesn't get the ball in his hands on a play, he has still impacted that play tremendously.
Yeah, man. And when you build that early lead, you rely on that defense, guys up front like Wyatt Halstead, Trenton Stubbs, Zayden Walker. They list him as a linebacker, but a lot of times Zayden Walker walks up and is more of a defensive end on that side. Jack Clark, Brody Smith. You said Jake Smith just called. That's Brody's dad. He's had a tremendous season. Ethan Sellers has really played well at linebacker. And then you got a secondary that's got guys like Jalewis, Carson, who's the interception leader, Kendall Sims, Tyrese Cook. Man, we're really loaded back there.
We are, and let me tell you what. And Coach Smith has also done is special teams. With special teams, we've had a really good season on special teams, and what we've got to make sure is, a couple 3 players, especially on kickoffs, will run down there like their hair's on fire. We need everybody playing like that on tomorrow night. From here on out, this is the all-star season, really, and then baseball about what it amounts to. You're playing all-star teams. Your competition is going to be stiffer. You can't take a play off. You can't. I don't care if it's on special teams or anything else. You got to sit there and be firing on all cylinders, because I guarantee you that drive from Lincolnton to Ellaville tomorrow, that's what they're going to be, ready to do. So we've got to match that intensity.
All right, we got about 5 minutes left, Scott. We're going to talk quickly about some games of interest in our area. Lee County at 9-2 will host Lovejoy at 7-4. What do you think?
I think Lovejoy just needs to stay on the bus.
Yeah, me too. Crisp County at 7-4. They'll travel up to Mary Persons, who's 10-1.
As many folks as I love in Cordell, Georgia, I hate to break it to them, their season ends tomorrow night.
You got it right. Terrell Academy at 6-4 takes a beach trip over to St. Simon's. Terrell is 6-4. Their opponent, Frederica Academy, is 5-5.
I'd like you. I think Terrell Academy wins that one. I think Terrell Academy goes down there, and I think Frederica doesn't know what's coming for them.
And then Macon County at 9-2. They'll be on the road to Augusta, where they'll take on Aquinas, who is also 9-2.
I hope Macon County vindicates or justifies everything I said last week about Augusta football. because Aquinas falls in that category more so than the Thompsons and the Lincoln counties and the Burke counties do. But Macon County should win that game. Let me see what let's see. Macon County is only favored by 2 points in that game, though.
I saw that today, so I think that's going to be a battle. So
Yeah.
It's time for the Who You Got part of the show, Scott. We've only got 2 of our local teams playing. Southland travels to Hayhira to take on Valwood. Who you got?
Will Peterson will probably be the only person who's happy about me this pick. I'm going to pick Valwood because he says I'm their Lee Corso, and if I pick against them, they normally win. So I'm going to pick against them and pick Valwood and hope the young men of Southland prove me wrong tomorrow night.
Boy, you stole my line, Scott. That's what I was going to say as well. Will Peterson, a good friend of ours, and one of our sponsors with One Digital, he understands that Lee Corso sometimes can give folks motivation. I'd love to see Southland Academy pull the upset, and I'd be their biggest cheerleader. I think Valwood's probably got a little too much, but Southland proved me wrong. I'm going to go with the numbers and say Valwood, but I'm pulling for Southland. And finally, Scott, Sly County plays host to Lincoln County. Who you got?
Sly County is a 26-point favorite. We've already kind of covered that. I like the matchup for. I mean, if you got nothing to do tomorrow night, you need to spend the money and get a ticket and come to this game. But bring your game face, because we're going to need you in the stands. We're going to need you cheering on those young men. Sly County has got the ability to beat them by 4 touchdowns. It's up to them if they decide to actually do that. Because Lincoln County is going to match their intensity, I think, early on, but Sly County can pull away, and I'm picking Sly County to win.
I'm going to pick Sly County to win as well, and I want to talk directly to the Sly County players that may watch this between now and game time. Do not take Lincoln County lightly. Lincoln County is a good football team. They know how to win. They've played in a pretty good region. They've had some good opponents, so they'll be ready. Scott's been using the word boat race a lot over this show, and I'm going to join him. You can boat race this team, but you got to do it early. Come out and hit them, and the defense has got to be able to play like they have. Jack Clark has led us in the middle linebacker spot, and a lot of times he's that spark that causes us to really play well. We don't want to get out of control. We don't want to have any of those unsportsmanlike conduct type penalties. We just want to hit them in the mouth, reach down and pick them up and help them up. But I think Sly County can win it as well. Scott, your final thoughts as we look at round 2 of the playoffs.
We probably ought to define boat race, because there's probably a lot of people, casual fans, that don't pay attention to the term. And I know it's a term that's been thrown around for many, many years. It's gotten popularity recently, but essentially a boat race. When you think about the sailing races and the regattas and all that kind of stuff, usually whatever boat comes out of the gates first and gets ahead, nobody catches them. Nobody
Right.
catches them. And then that's kind of what we're hoping for Sly County. If they come out and jump on them 1-2 touchdowns, nobody's gonna catch them. And that's what this game could be if they come out in the first quarter and do what they're supposed to do. But that's my final thought.
And we want to thank you for watching the Integrity Sports Podcast. We want to thank our sponsors, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal, Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance, One Digital Solutions, and All South Appraisals. Our show is growing each week, Scott. Again, we eclipsed that 1,600 mark this week, so want to thank everybody that's been a part of that. If you're watching on YouTube, I found out we got a lot of folks that watch that haven't subscribed. Just hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure and hit the like button and share the video so that we can have more of our viewers up. We also are available on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on several other social media and podcast platforms. For my friend Scott Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long